So Joe, how has the popularity of women's football evolved over the past decade?
I think it's grown a lot, especially from when I started getting into football when I was a lot younger. From then compared to now, it's huge compared to where it was. The coverage, the almost like hype, if you like, is a lot more exciting now actually.
And what's your opinion on the impact of the bigger tournaments like the World Cup or the Euros on the growth of the sport?
Huge. The Euro's just gone. A lot of people are following that. All my the women I've got in my family, they're never really into football, but they were suddenly following it throughout the start. So it's made a massive impact.
And staying on that topic, do you think England women winning the Euros and the first major tournament for women and men for a long time has helped the growth of the sport for women, and how do you think it's done that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's made a massive impact. I think a lot of young women and girls will sort of aspire to the sort of professional women that were in that England team. They'll obviously take a lot of inspiration from them, especially as they won the Euros. I think that will just boost younger girls and women at football. I think they'll get a lot more girls coming through the grassroots because they'll watch that, take inspiration and then want to play themselves. So I think it's helped out the sort of women's side of football massively.
Yeah, and for the professional side, how important is the media coverage in the sport and promoting the progression of women's football? Because obviously you have the Euros, which everyone watches, and more recently you have a lot of WSL games being put on live. So how do you think that's impacted the sport and helped it?
A lot. It's definitely helped it sort of blow up. Media coverage nowadays for football is massive, it's huge. If it's not televised, if it's not sort of promoted, then not many people are going to know about it. Especially with the Euros, that's promoted a lot, so that's what's helped. So I think the more media coverage and sort of social media stuff, influence, it will have a massive influence on it and the sort of growth and the impact it will get across to everyone really.
What changes have you seen in public perception of the sport and support for women's football?
I think the perception is a lot more positive now. There's a lot less sort of sexism, if you like. Some of the football now, sort of at the higher level of women, is amazing. You watch the Women Premier League, it's just, the football is really good compared to what it was before. At university, it's the women's team this season have won the league. We've got a great first team. And us boys being in the men's team, we're really close with them. We don't look any different to them as how we view a men's team. We're really close. We support them every week. We support them in their varsity campaign that's just gone. So with the uni side, it's really positive and it's huge actually. It's really big, really big.
And in the last 10, 15 so years, do you think the youth side of women's football has improved? Because obviously growing up 10, 15 years ago, there was almost nothing, and now it's like in academies, clubs, it's much more accessible, and girls used to play in the boys' teams, and now they have their own teams. So do you think that's helped the sport, and how do you think it's done that?
Yeah, that's really helped the sport. As I mentioned before, a lot of more girls and women are sort of going through the grassroots level, which will then obviously lead on to the higher levels that are getting the media coverage, getting the social media. I have a role in the FA, and they focus a lot on women, like women grassroots sport like football. And compared to what it was before, there's loads and loads of opportunities now for sort of just young girls and women's team. It's just evolving. It's just on the rise really, just completely evolving.
What do you think the next steps are needed to help the women's game progress even more?
Again, just the accessibility of it all. So with the FA we're doing at the moment, how we can get it as accessible as it can be, that being sort of location, easily accessed, people don't have to travel far, financially they don't have to pay much because it can be an expensive sport at a higher level, but if we influence it from the grassroots level and just get the access there, then a lot more young women girls will take a fancy to it, because they're scared or sort of shy of putting themselves out there, the easy access will just skyrocket. It will just really help the side of sport.
And what do you think the biggest challenges women and girls face in football?
I'd say confidence, and I think that partly plays a role with the sexism side of things. Obviously, there is less women's sport and sort of teams and clubs compared to men. I think, especially the girls that I was speaking to at uni, when they joined the team, they were sort of, it's a confidence thing. They don't want to be playing a sport and maybe being looked upon a certain way or being judged. That's definitely decreasing now. There's a lot more sort of confidence going through. There's a lot more young women and girls sort of joining and sort of owning it, really. But I think it's just the perception maybe of just they don't want to be judged, and sort of the confidence to join a team or start playing, really.
And where do you think this perception and sexism comes from? Because a lot of it is rooted in social media. You always see videos of the women's game on social media with people mocking that. Do you think that has an effect on these younger people and even the players themselves?
Yeah, definitely. I think that'll have a big impact. Obviously, everyone's on social media, so everyone's going to be seeing it. These negative sort of videos being put towards women, I think a lot of the younger women and girls will see that, and again, going back to confidence, their confidence will completely decrease, and they won't want to put themselves in that position. Obviously, it's not ideal that that's out there on social media, because loads of things get put out on social media. But yeah, I definitely do think that hinders the sort of amount of women and girls that are putting themselves out there to play the sport that they are interested in. But yeah, especially at the higher levels as well, that's a lot more mocked, especially, obviously there's a big comparison to the men's professional level and the women's professional level. So I think it's just they're not confident that they're not going to be judged themselves. So I do think it has a really sort of negative impact, obviously with social media and everything.
Mentioning the men and the women, how do you think the pay gap between male footballers and female footballers, because obviously it's quite a lot, how do you think that affects the sport, and why do you think that is?
Well, I think nowadays there's a huge pay gap because everything is due to media coverage. A lot more people watch men's sport and in general men's football. So that's what brings the money in. Obviously you've got all the channels that the men's football is broadcasted on. So I think with a lot more people watching it, a lot more people paying to watch it, that's what brings in the money, and that's why there's loads of money in football. Unfortunately, not as many people watch the women's football, so I think they just don't have the money to obviously pay the players as the way the men's players are paid, really.
Why do you think there's less media coverage in women's football compared to men's? Because you say about the TV rights and the money that comes from that. Why do you think the outlets don't cover the women's game as much as they do the men's?
I think that football now, with all the money involved, is a lot more business involved. So I don't think the business side of things want to invest or put their money into the women's side, because they don't see the numbers that they do on the men's side. I think especially as you go a lot higher up, it's all about money. Unfortunately today, that's the case. I think in a few years, the women's side of football will be still skyrocketing, and more money will be brought in, because obviously winning the Euros, that's just taken off now. But I think the business side lets it down of investing. They don't want to invest in that women's side compared to the coverage that they're getting, and obviously the amount of people that are watching and paying to watch the men's side.
And what do you think can be done to improve that and improve funding and sponsorship for the women's game?
I don't think it will be an overnight fix. I think it goes back to the grassroots side of things, just really promoting the younger generation to sort of start playing and have the confidence to join the football teams that they want to join. because that will definitely, in the long run, you'll get a lot higher standards of football, which will then increase the views that the games will get. I think the coverage, the promotion side of things, I think it can be a lot more. Especially on my sort of feed, all I get is men's stuff. I don't get any women's stuff. That's not by choice as well. I do follow some of the women's games, but you'll see a lot more men's stuff. So I think just treating it like it's the same thing, treating it like it's the same competitiveness, same sort of hype, if you know what I mean. Just treating it as equal, and I think it'll bring a lot more views and money into the sport.